What is up, everybody? It is now the second episode of EnzuiguriMania. It is I, Will the Thrill, and I'm returning to you guys to predict and analyze careers and hopefully look at the next pay-per-view next week. Sorry about the break in between episodes. I had a little bit of a family issue pop up, but we're here again, we're strong again, and I want to remind you guys that last episode I predicted the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, and all my predictions came true. And as you saw last episode, I also predicted the Titus brand, and it was taking shape. And if you've been watching on Raw, it is now taking shape. It looks like Akira Tozawa is joining the Titus brand. So you heard it here first on EnzuiguriMania podcast. My predictions, my analysis, and my hopes and dreams are coming true, and you can hear it here first on EnzuiguriMania podcast. This episode, this week, we're going to be analyzing the career of the one and the only, the show-off, Dolph Ziggler. He's gotten a lot of accolades in his career. He's also gotten a lot of criticism from fans about him, being lackluster in the ring. He's losing a little of his enthusiasm. Maybe he's getting a little ring rust. A lot of people are criticizing him, saying he's not as good as he used to be, and he's kind of dry and boring at this point. So we're going to analyze his career. We're going to look back at where he's come from, where he's going, and see what's going to take to get him Hall of Fame worthy. We're going to look at 3 things I think he needs to do before he's ready for the Hall of Fame. He's got a pretty long career. He's been around for about 10 years now, and we're going to take a look at his career. So, and most of you guys know, Dolph Ziggler definitely started out in the Spirit Squad, going against the likes of the D-Generation X. So it was there where everybody got to see him for the first time. He was working with his buddies in the Spirit Squad. A lot of dream matches there with him and Triple H and him and Shawn Michaels. He's been compared to a very young Shawn Michaels. So getting to see him in the ring with Shawn, going back and watching that, it's pretty cool because the potential he was going to have to become what he is today. Then he went away to Ohio Valley Wrestling, got some training in there, came back, and sadly enough, he was the caddy to Chavo Guerrero. But then he was repackaged and came back as the show-off Dolph Ziggler as we know him today. He's won the Heavyweight Championship twice, the Intercontinental Championship 5 times, the United States Championship once, and was the 2012 Money in the Bank winner. Of course, he's had one of the biggest accolades of his career was cashing in the Money in the Bank the night after WrestleMania 29 on Alberto Del Rio, successfully winning the Heavyweight Championship. It's considered one of the greatest moments of WWE history, considered one of the greatest cash-ins of all time. He's been sole survivor of the Survivor Series match. One of my most favorite moments from watching wrestling is him surviving the 2014 Survivor Series match, being the sole survivor, going after, I think it was two or three guys. He takes them out on his own. So he has had a pretty stellar career. He's had some great moments. Of course, he was tied up with Vicky Guerrero for a bit, kind of weighed down his career. But he had some really great matches too. One of my favorite matches of all time, and I'll do a list a little bit later down the road of my top 10 favorite matches. One of my favorite matches of all time is Dolph Ziggler versus Daniel Bryan for the United States title at, I think it was Breaking Point 2010. And it's such a good match. Such a good match. You should really watch it if you can. Because he really comes out and wrestles like his college wrestling days. And him and Daniel Bryan put on a clinic. It's about like a 20-minute match, and it's stellar. The only thing that ever holds down the match is Vicky Guerrero's issues are at ringside. She kind of distracts a lot of what could be a great match. But I would give it a 9 out of 10. He also has had some great matches with the likes of Randy Orton, Daniel Bryan again, The Miz most recently last fall. He had a great storyline with The Miz for the IC title. Had some great matches at No Mercy, Backlash, things like that. So he's had some good stuff in his career. He's been compared to a very young Shawn Michaels. Of course, now he's even adopted the Sweet Chin music as part of his moveset. But a lot of people have called him out, saying he's gotten old. He's gotten stale in his moves. He's kind of gotten lazy. And I can actually see that. Dolph Ziggler, for the longest time, for about 3 years, he was one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And watching him kind of get, I wouldn't say he's gotten tired. I think he's just gotten worn out. I think he's worn out with the road. I think he's worn out with the way he's booked. It's been 50-50 booking his whole career, where he'll get a title and then lose it. He'll get a title and lose it. He'll get a push and then lose it. And so he's gone a long way. He was in several stables. He's been in several key moments in the WWE. But he's never stayed there long. He's never won the WWE Championship, which is a darn shame. He's put in a lot of work. He's been there 10 years. I think he deserves that. So we're going to look at 3 things I think he needs to do as soon as possible to regain momentum and potentially become Hall of Fame worthy. First thing on the list, he needs to take a break. He needs to get out of the WWE for a bit, a couple of months to a year. He needs to be off TV. Lately, he's been on TV all the time. His whole heel thing he's doing right now is lackluster at best. When he first started out, his attack on Jerry Lawler, his chair shots on Kalisto and Apollo Crews, fantastic. He had fire, he was angry, he was frustrated, and that's what he needs to trigger to be successful as a heel. The problem is he was doing that for all of 3 weeks, and then he just sputtered out. He was, talking a big game, but he never did anything about it. And he's on TV all the time. He needs to take a break. He needs to go away for a while, collect his thoughts, get some rest for his body, and come back. So I say takes a year off from now until SummerSlam next year. Because if you watch him in the matches, watch him in the ring, watch him in the back, he looks worn out. He looks like he's lost the love he used to have for wrestling. I might be wrong about that, but the way he's carrying himself compared to where he carried himself with the IC title matches last year, or his feuds in 2014 against Luke Harper or The Authority, he's a completely different person. It may just be his heel gimmick. It may just be him trying to portray this frustrated, tired wrestler who just wants, a chance at the top again. But he's not really portraying that properly. He's more portraying, a guy who's seen it all. He's road weary and he needs a break. So I think first things first is Dolph Ziggler needs to get off TV. If you listen on SmackDown when he comes out, he doesn't even get cheers anymore. He doesn't get cheers. He doesn't get boos. He gets no reaction, and that is the worst thing for a wrestler. It was the Del Rio treatment all over again. If you remember, Alberto Del Rio would come out for matches, and he wouldn't get any reaction whatsoever. He was a heel, wouldn't get any reaction. Same thing for the Primo and Epico, and for the Usos for a time period. Nobody cared. So he needs to get off TV. Second thing he needs is he needs a key feud. He needs a feud that defines his career. Of course, he's had that awesome Miz feud for a while, and he had the feud he had with the Authority back in 2014 for the IC title again. And while those are great moments, and he had some matches with John Cena, he has not had the key feud that makes or breaks careers. Randy Orton had the feud with John Cena. John Cena feuded with Edge. Shawn Michaels feuded with Bret Hart. Triple H feuded with, Cactus Jack or Chris Jericho. Key feuds that produce, as soon as somebody says the name of a certain wrestler, they think, oh, remember that feud, or remember that, or remember whenever Austin faced McMahon. When you think Dolph Ziggler, you might think, oh, he was a good wrestler, he's a good technician, but you don't think of key feuds or something that really lights up. So for me, I think he needs to find a key feud, a key wrestler he can connect with. I thought for the longest time it was going to be Tyler Breeze. Tyler Breeze is almost a mirror image of a very young Dolph Ziggler, and I felt like that was a way for Dolph Ziggler to not only pass the torch to a young Tyler Breeze and give him the rub he needs to be brought to the main roster, but also their movesets could have produced some really classic matches. But instead, they gave him a month-long quote-unquote feud where they had a blow-off match where Dolph Ziggler crushed him, and Tyler Breeze was sent back to the bottom of the card for a good solid year. So Dolph Ziggler needs to find an opponent. And I think if they're going to do it right, I think Ty Dillinger could be that guy. I think Ty Dillinger has not had his moment in the sun yet on SmackDown Live. A lot of fans are clamoring for him to get back in the spotlight, and the creative in the back are just kind of fumbling with him. I think that they're losing an opportunity with a guy who is way over with the crowd. They might not have anything for him right now, and I think that's okay. I think if we're going to start with what we started with, Dolph Ziggler takes a break. So instead of Ty Dillinger taking a break right now, bring Ty Dillinger up. Have him work the mid-card of SmackDown Live. Go against maybe a Baron Corbin for a little bit, or a Sami Zayn. Put on some good matches. Maybe get in the U.S. title picture for a bit. Give him some matches. Get him seen, and then put Ty Dillinger in a feud with him when he gets back. So have Dolph Ziggler come back at SummerSlam, maybe attack Ty Dillinger, call him out, or something like that. And they could put on some good matches. If you watch any of Ty Dillinger's work down in NXT, he's put on some stellar matches with guys like Eric Young, Bobby Roode, even I think he took on Finn Balor at some points. He has the credibility to put on good matches. And he will be able to get the reaction out of Dolph Ziggler, because he's got the crowd on his side. If Dolph Ziggler can use that against him and bring out his heel work and start, doing heelish things, chairs, tables, cheating to win, get his heel reaction back from the crowd, you've got a good storyline you could bounce off with. A young dog who's trying to get to the top versus an old veteran who's, tired of being put on the sidelines, tired of being injured, tired of all of this stuff. So my key feud for them is those two. And a lot of people would disagree with me. A lot of people think Ty Dillinger does not have what it takes to put on a key feud, or Dolph Ziggler doesn't have what it takes anymore to put on stellar matches. And I think that's where I firmly disagree. I think Ty Dillinger and Dolph Ziggler could put on clinics and go from SummerSlam to, let's say, Hell in a Cell or No Mercy or something like that in like the October region. Put on 3 stellar matches. Of course, we'd have to do like a standard match at SummerSlam, and then at, let's say, Hell in a Cell, we do a 2 out of 3 falls match, and then at No Mercy, we do a Extreme Rules match or Steel Cage match. Build up, make their rivalry matter. So it needs to be akin to a Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels, or something like that, where it's 2 guys who one's extremely stellar in the ring and one's extremely stellar in the ring, and they just are given all it takes to be the better man. So I think that's what's left for that. And the third final thing is definitely going to be a WWE Championship reign. It's perfect for him being on SmackDown. I think him being on SmackDown would be perfect timing for him to take some time to get some matches in, but then also go after that WWE Championship. Him going after the WWE Championship will put him back on the map. Many people say he's not credible anymore, that he's going to be a waste of time, that they've messed with him too much, and his pushes have been lackluster and have not mounted anything. So this is where he needs to have a build-up, a feud. That is what's missing from a lot of these wrestlers, like a Jinder Mahal or Baron Corbin. They're lacking those key feuds that make them championship worthy. So that's why we wouldn't pull the trigger on Dolph Ziggler getting the WWE Championship until he faces Ty Dillinger. Of course, then you can have Ty Dillinger get the smaller title of the U.S. title if it's still on SmackDown by next year, and go run with it for a bit, put some credibility on it. But for Dolph Ziggler needs that WWE Championship. Dolph Ziggler needs to have that gold on his shoulders. And the thing is, he's never held one of the big titles for very long. I think at most it's been a month, 2 months at tops. Have him hold it for a good solid 4, 5, 6 months, and take down guys like Nakamura, take down guys like Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, and by the time he holds that title, he needs to be a face again. What he's been missing in his matches have been those moves that get him to pop the crowd. Since he's become a heel, he's lacked a lot of those cool moves. Those his fighting underdog spirit, where he all of a sudden comes back in a match and does some sick moves, and that gets the crowd on his side. And as a heel, he's been kind of grinding people into the ground and doing some technical moves. And while those are great, he's not pulling them off very well. He's not portraying himself as a heel very well. he needs to get back to that. So after his heel run against Ty Dillinger, he needs to go to a face run, and he needs to win the title. Remind people why people loved him. And not to say that this is perfect. Like, those three things are it. That those are the only go-to things that are left for Dolph Ziggler to do. I think he needs to win the tag titles in the WWE. I think he could be good for, if, let's say, Breezango breaks up, him and Ty Dillinger, or him and Tyler Breeze could win those titles together and put on some good matches with the tag division. I think that's one of the things that WWE is missing right now, is two random wrestlers tying it up together as a tag team. You've got that with Sheamus and Cesaro, and it's killer. Like, the people like them. Even though they're heels right now, people like them. And it's just two random wrestlers coming together as one. Right now, you've got too many of them who are tag teams because they have to be tag teams. Like the Usos. They wouldn't survive on their own, and they're destined to be tag teams forever. Or the Ascension, or Colognes. They're all destined to be tag teams, and we can only go for so long with that. So we need a top dog with a younger guy, or we need a mixed match tag team. Like, remember how Team Hell No was a mix of a veteran and a younger wrestler tagging together because they had to. And then the fans loved it because they had to support these wrestlers because they both loved each one of them individually. So have Dolph Ziggler tie it up with another wrestler. I think those are some key things. He needs that key feud, but more than anything, more than the break, more than the title, he needs a key feud. He needs to be remembered for something significant. And without it, he's not going to be remembered. I think he's going to go down in history as a great wrestler, but he's going to go down as somebody who's kind of remembered as a footnote. If he were to retire tomorrow, most people would even remember him 2 years from now, 3 years from now. He has a list of great matches, and he has a list of great moments, but he doesn't have those marquee moments that put him on the spectrum. He doesn't even have a WrestleMania moment at this point. So those are those three things: the break, a year-long break starting now till SummerSlam next year, the feud potentially with Ty Dillinger. I'd even take a feud with AJ Styles, but I would prefer a younger guy. He tried it with Baron Corbin. It just didn't work out for me. It didn't work out for him either. And then, of course, a WWE Championship run. Those three things, I think, could revive his career. I think it puts him on the map for Hall of Fame worthiness. Without those three things, I don't think he's Hall of Fame worthy at all. So that wraps it up for this week. I kept it short and sweet. I know I kind of stumbled around a little bit, but you get the gist, that I think Dolph Ziggler has potential to be one of the greatest of all time, but I think on the path he's on right now, he's missing so much. So next week, I'm actually going to be analyzing a little bit of the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view. We got some great matches with Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar, the ambulance match between Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns, and what looks to be Sasha Banks versus Alexa Bliss. And, of course, the rest of the card is probably going to be really good, too. So it's going to be a great card. I'm going to analyze that first, and then I'm going to start delving into my top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time. I think that's a good way to get myself introduced to you guys a little bit better. You guys can see why I like certain wrestlers, maybe why I don't like certain other wrestlers. And then as we go forward, if you guys like, we can go forward with my top 10 favorite matches of all time, top 10 favorite moments of all time, things like that. And if you guys have any questions, if you guys have any topics, opinions you want to hear me talk about, different ideas, different things you want me to book, or things you want me to fantasy look at, just say it in the comments of this video, say it in the comments of my Facebook posts, and I'll analyze them for you guys. All right, you guys have a good week, and I will see you next week on EnzuiguriMania Podcast.